Thank you. My name is Barb Headrick. I'm here on behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. Will be your moderator for this evening. We have two candidates with us from District 41. A third one may show up. We will cross our fingers he was able to come. A fourth candidate was not able to come, and I'll be reading a statement from that person. Thank you to all the candidates for joining us for this forum. And thank you to the city of Fargo for providing the space in the lovely City Commission chamber for doing this and for recording this forum for the PEG TV channel, TV Fargo 56. And this recording will be posted on our League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley Facebook page at a later date, as soon as we can. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you'd like to learn more about the League, please visit our website or find us on Facebook or talk to one of myself or Bailey or any other of the volunteers who are here tonight. We'd love to have you. The League of Women Voters sponsors candidate forums to provide the public with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss the issues that are important to members of the public. The League is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any political party or candidate. The views expressed in each forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters posts complete, unedited recordings of forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan political purposes. These are the rules that we'll be following this evening. We have several questions already committed on cards. If you'd like to do so, please do. And just hold it up, and then one of our volunteers will take it from you and bring it to me. We do review for clarity and for repetition, but otherwise we'll ask the question as they are read as completely as we can. Do remember, I do want to warn you that the candidates only have 1 minute to answer, so keep that in mind when you're writing your questions. Our candidates tonight are from District 41, Megan Edwardson and Lillian Jones. And each of them will have a 1 minute opening statement. And then for each question, each candidate will be able to answer in 1 minute increments. There is a timer in the back who will keep the time of 1 minute or around then. Since there's only two of you, I told him to be gentle and how quickly he starts the timer. And then you will hear a ding if you do get to 1 minute, and just finish your thought as quickly as you can. After the questions are completed, we will have another 1 minute closing statement. Now tonight, one of the candidates who could not be here, Michelle Strinden, did send us a statement, and we always agree for those who are not able to attend because of previous commitments to be willing to read their statement beforehand. So this is from Michelle Strinden, running in District 41. Good evening. I regret that I cannot join you this evening. I had a family gathering that was planned earlier this year that unfortunately could not be rescheduled. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum and for allowing me to submit a statement. For the past 4 years, I've had the honor of serving my neighbors as their state representative. In that time, I have focused on getting real results for my constituents. I have introduced and worked with colleagues across the aisle to pass 2 bills addressing dyslexia through early screening and research-based remediation strategies. I have worked with Governor Burgum on issues ranging from the FM diversion to increasing substance abuse disorder voucher dollars and on child care. If reelected, my top 3 priorities will be to make quality child care more affordable for everyday working families, partner with Governor Burgum to provide real tax relief to hardworking North Dakota families, and strengthen our education and behavioral health systems through my work on the appropriations committees. Serving my neighbors in South Fargo's District 41 has been the honor of a lifetime, and I hope to earn your support this November. I would gladly answer any questions that anyone may have. You may contact me through info on my website, michellestrinden.com, or my Facebook page, Representative Michelle Strinden, District 41. Sincerely, Michelle Strinden. So we will start with opening statements. Megan, you'll go first, and then with the first question, we'll start with Lillian. We'll go back and forth that way. Megan, go ahead.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. Thanks, Barb, and thanks for everybody in the audience for being here. As a field representative for U.S. Senator Heidi Heitkamp, I have a strong background in constituent services. I did federal casework on issues such as Veterans Affairs, military, immigration, Social Security, and healthcare. The status quo is not working in Bismarck. It's time to elect leaders that will fight for women's reproductive health rights, fight for a woman's right to choose, make sure that working families in North Dakota have a voice in Bismarck. I am that fresh new perspective that Bismarck needs, and I hope to get your vote on November 8th.
Thank you. Lillian?
Thanks again to the League for hosting this evening's forum. My name is Lillian Jones, and I've lived in District 41 since I moved to Fargo in 2009. I'm an enrolled member of the Hidatsa and Arikara tribes of the MHA Nation on Fort Berthold. I am a paralegal consultant and advocate for women, children, and families, also survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. I bring experience and a voice to the table that speaks to the future for those who we will never meet and honors the past, those who laid a foundation for us. I believe in the dignity of all persons, no matter their familial or economic status, ethnicity, age, ability, gender, or identity, and I will defend it. I believe in a woman's absolute right to body autonomy and the integrity of the family and their right to make decisions that affect their future. I'm running for this seat because I'm concerned about the future, and I look forward to working with my legislative colleagues for a brighter future.
Thank you. So this is the first question, and Lillian, we start with you. What experience do you have that qualifies you for this position?
Oh, for one, I've served on a number of boards. One of the things that I do believe in, and I've always believed in, it's a value my grandmother instilled in me, is you commit to your community, you involve yourself, you contribute. And as part of the Fargo community, I've carried my service mentality into this community by serving on local boards such as PTA boards. I've served on the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition and the North Dakota Women's Network's boards of directors. I didn't operate. My husband and I had a disability law office where I served as the paralegal there and continued my tribal court advocacy on behalf of families.
Megan?
I worked for U.S. Senator Heidi Heitkamp for nearly 4 years. My background, again, is in constituent services. I will carry that with me to Bismarck. It's time to fight for working families. I had to work across the aisle to find solutions for all of Senator Heitkamp's constituents, and I vow to do that in Bismarck.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Megan. A couple of people have asked about finding adequate childcare is a problem in North Dakota. How should the legislature address this issue?
The legislature needs to increase funding so that our working families do not have to choose between going back to work and providing getting their kids back into daycare. We need to also make sure that our childcare workers are paid a living wage so that daycare facilities are able to be staffed adequately.
Thank you. Lillian?
I believe that we could put the legacy fund to use and put some of those legacy dollars into our future generations. One of the things that we have no deficit, we are a very wealthy state, and it's time to direct some of those dollars. What I see is potentially working through and with the Bank of North Dakota on small business loans or grants for the development of the centers and to help bolster the training for staff. This is a critical element in our infrastructure. People need to be able to have daycare in order to get to work, and there are plenty of jobs out there, and there need to be more on the way, especially with the growth and development of the community, and in this area specifically for job creation and development. But we can't have that without childcare.
Thank you. First, the next question, start with you, Lillian. There is a severe teacher shortage in North Dakota. How should the legislature address this?
One thing that the legislature could do is stay out of the curriculum development business and leave the education to the qualified educators who earned their degrees to provide that education. That would be one. And I'm sorry, that's a hot topic for me. Could you please restate your question?
It basically says there is a severe teacher shortage in North Dakota. How should the legislature address this?
Okay. The other thing is to increase funding. Right now, it's 60 to 70%, I believe, goes towards funding public education across the board. We could at least level that off to 75% and increase teacher pay. If we can't pay them a sound wage and secure their future, we're not going to have much success retaining quality educators. Another thing is to protecting their rights. In my opinion, if we can't deal with mass shootings and the AR-15, our educators deserve hazard pay.
Thank you. Megan?
We need to increase funding for public education. The legislature has also no business micromanaging how teachers teach. We need to make sure that our teachers are paid adequately. They are struggling in the classroom. We have a teacher shortage and a teacher retention problem, because the core issue here is that teachers are not supported or funded adequately. And it's time we use some legacy fund dollars, that $8 billion surplus sitting in Bismarck, to help our public education, because public schools lead to vibrant communities. And that's what we want here in Fargo.
Thank you. Next question, we start with you, Megan, and this is going to take me a little while to read this. It all goes to the back of the card.
That's okay.
Workforce safety and insurance. North Dakota's Injured Workers Compensation Program currently has a budget surplus. North Dakota also has the lowest employer-paid work comp premiums in the nation. As a result, the coverage for injured workers is non-existent. Governor Burgum announced today that Art Thompson will be taking over as head of the WSI. Art is, quote, excited to maintain competitive rates for policyholders. As of 2021, WSI had a $1.1 billion surplus, and employers saw a decrease in premiums in 6 of the last 7 years, including an 8% decrease in 2021. Now we get to the question. The question becomes, should the agency turn a profit or take care of injured workers?
The agency needs to take care of injured workers. We have $1.1 billion sitting there. We need to pay those claims. I'm proud to be endorsed by the North Dakota AFL-CIO, and I will fight for workers and working families in Bismarck.
Lillian?
Very good. We have to take care of the people who make this state the place we want to raise our families. When it comes to workforce safety and the protection of our workers, there is no way we can justify winding up with some of our employees going home in body bags. That is a shame. For those who are injured on the job and seek disability, their routes are pretty much cut off. So the legislature needs to drag that out and put it front and center. If we want to promote this legendary state, then we need to treat our people as though they matter.
Thank you. Next questions. Start with you, Lillian. Mm-hmm. North Dakota no longer has a place for people in need to obtain safe abortion. What are your thoughts and plans around that? And what is your overall position on reproductive rights? And what role will the legislature play in addressing them?
Women have the right to privacy, number one. There's a law that protects your right to privacy when it comes to your health care. Your reproductive rights are health care, and no man, no legislative body should have the authority to tell you what you can or cannot do with that body. I believe that Roe, which had been struck down recently and caused devastation, should be codified in North Dakota state law. And I know that that's a challenge, but I think it's a challenge that is worth having a conversation about, especially the way things have turned out since that unfortunate decision with Dobbs.
Thank you. Megan?
Reproductive freedom is on the ballot this November, and I believe in reproductive freedom. I do not believe that the government should be involved in making women's healthcare choices. In 2014, North Dakotans voted down the personhood measure that would have banned abortion at an early stage. It was voted down by a 2-to-1 margin. There is a silent majority in our state that is pro-choice. And it's time that we send somebody to Bismarck that believes in reproductive freedom. And it's important that we focus on that this next legislative session.
Thank you. Now starting with you, Megan, how will you work on a bipartisan basis to accomplish goals for all North Dakotans?
During my time in Senator Heitkamp's office, constituents came into our office in issues such as veterans affairs, military, immigration. I did all those issue areas, and I was able to work across the aisle for all constituents because they were Senator Heitkamp's constituents. There's enough bickering in Bismarck. We need bipartisan support on legislation that makes sense for North Dakotans, and I promise that I will do that in Bismarck.
Lillian?
Oh, compromise. It would be wonderful if we could walk in with our list of do's and this is what we won't, but that's not the way the life works. So I believe that I need to, would work toward compromise. Communication is key. When we want to convey an idea, we have to be very clear about it and be willing to edit those lists of demands, per se. Network building, identifying partners or colleagues who have similar interests or backgrounds, which takes a bit of homework, and that's okay. We've got nothing better to do, and we're in this for the seat. And also, I would solicit testimonies that would work in favor of promoting a position or an idea.
Thank you. Lillian, the next question will start with you. Now you get to listen to a long one. The state of Minnesota has a public disabilities program that financially assists individuals that cannot work due to their medical conditions. People in North Dakota struggle every day to survive both because of their severe medical conditions and their lack of financial resources due to the inability to work. Will you advocate at the state level for additional funds for vulnerable individuals in these situations? And if so, how?
First off, I would have to make sure that they didn't qualify for any federal disability benefits. If they were able to prevail in a disability determination, that would be one measure. That would be the first. Aside from that, this would essentially, if it fell under or parallel to the workforce safety issues, that would be another component or area of focus to look at for additional funding or to meet that gap. And then with the Department of Health and Human Services, I would have to work with them.
Thank you.
Megan?
As the daughter of a mother who has had a disability for over 20 years, I saw how hard work was for her towards the end of her being able to work. We need to make sure that folks with disabilities are able to work and that we support them through that process. Also, the state needs to fund those programs to assist them and make sure that we can address our workforce shortage as well. Because if we don't address all of these underlying issues, we'll never solve our workforce shortage. And I think that's really important that we focus on this next session.
Thank you. Start with you again, Megan. President Biden announced today that he will pardon all prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possession, a move that senior administration officials said would affect thousands of Americans. Biden also encouraged governors to do the same at the state level. Would legalizing recreational marijuana be a priority for you at the state capitol?
Absolutely. And I also support the recreational marijuana, the legalization of marijuana that's currently on the ballot this November. We can't have offenders in our prison system that have low-level offenses, such as marijuana possession. It costs the state millions of dollars, and we need to address that, and I support the legalization of marijuana.
Lillian?
I support the expunging of records for misdemeanor possession charges in the state. And I also in favor of the legalization of recreational marijuana. We cannot continue to ignore overdose deaths. And it's hard to make that connection between marijuana and overdose deaths. But if you think about weed on the street and it's laced with something, most often it's fentanyl, and people are dying. We need to take it out of the hands of those who are doing illicit activities in the street and tax the beans out of it. We can be responsible here, but get rid of the shame, and legalization is the way to go.
Thank you. Start with you now, Lillian. As an elected member of the North Dakota House or Senate, whichever you're running for, what is your position on using valuable time for such issues as, what it said just says CRT here. I assume that refers to
Critical race theory.
critical race theory, yes. Transgender issues, banning plastic bags from cities, banning cities from mask mandates.
I think it is absolutely preposterous that these issues are the focus of our legislature. Time is better spent focusing on the quality of life for those people who call North Dakota home, those people who come to North Dakota to raise their family, because there's some integrity that is carried with our state. Let's see here. I lost track of your question. I'm so sorry.
It included CRT, transgender issues, banning plastic bags, banning cities from banning plastic bags, I believe it means.
Okay.
And banning cities from mask mandates.
Right. As far as the critical race theory, that's a postgraduate course that has never been taught in any elementary or secondary school. But time is best spent addressing real issues that affect the families in North Dakota.
Megan?
Critical race theory is a non-issue, and it is a distraction from the core issue at hand, which is lack of funding for public education. How insulting is it for teachers to hear that a Republican member of the North Dakota House would create a hotline to address a teacher who might or might not be teaching critical race theory? Because it's not happening. It's a non-issue. When it comes to plastic bags, mask mandates, if this is about local control, then let it be about local control. The legislature should not be micromanaging how teachers teach, and it's a non-issue. It's not taught in our public schools. It's a post-secondary discipline, and we need to get to the core issues at hand here.
And now, starting with you, Megan, what are your plans in your campaign, it says, to support student loan forgiveness?
Yeah, so through the Bank of North Dakota, we need to support their interest rates and keep those interest rates down. I visited with the FM Area Association of Realtors, and they mentioned that the average age of a home buyer has gone up by 10 years. And part of the reason that it's gone up is because young people like me have crippling student loan debt. We need to address that. We need, especially through the Bank of North Dakota, in interest-free student loans.
Lillian?
I believe that the Bank of North Dakota could definitely fund no-interest student loans to anyone seeking post-secondary education, be it trade school, community college, anything to further their career or build a life for themselves.
Next question, we start with Lillian. What do you think should be done to prevent gun violence in our state?
For one, the licensure. let me back up. Number one should be abiding by federal law. I've never seen a state refute federal law before our own. And I'm from here. My people are from here. I have roots that don't know boundaries. But when I think of common sense gun legislation, for one, a ban on assault rifles, the AR-15 specifically, because it has caused the most catastrophic damage to families and to society as a whole. But I would definitely urge my legislative colleagues to abide by federal law, and that's specific to firearms.
Megan?
When it comes to gun control, let's focus on something that we actually can accomplish. Number one, red flag laws. We need to make sure we strengthen this and make sure that guns are kept out of the hands of people that are going to go commit a mass shooting at a school. We need stronger background checks. If you have to wait one more week to get a gun because you need one for deer opener, you weren't planning very far ahead if you're in a pinch. So we need stronger universal background checks, and we need stronger red flag laws.
Now, Megan, we start with you, and someone has a very, you can elaborate, of course, but it's a very straightforward this or that sort of question. Which tax to cut, income or property?
Property taxes. We can lower property taxes by increasing our funding for public education. When public education doesn't need as much funding from property taxes, we can use state dollars to increase funding for public schools. That way we inadvertently lower property taxes.
Lillian?
Property tax, in essence, with the lowering of property tax rates, that helps your family, that helps the family. But alongside that, I am also mindful of the number of families that we have in our community that do not own homes. They live in apartments, and odds are they will never be able to own a home. But our next door neighbor, Minnesota, has a rent rebate program that we could definitely parallel right here in North Dakota. So it's not only our homeowners that receive a financial burden lifted, but also our renting families.
Start with you now, Lillian. Our Indigenous community members experience homelessness at an alarming rate. What plans do you have to help?
One of the things that I'm doing is I'm a member of the Indigenous Women's Collective, and one of the things that we are looking for is accountability and also to build partnerships with our existing Indigenous organizations within and across this region, and also to our community partners. So we're looking to build community for real and making it authentic. One of the parallels that we should be all familiar with if we've been in this region for about 7-8 years is what happened on Standing Rock with a water protest and the gathering of nations that came to stand in solidarity. We were also able to put up a school. We had medical facilities. We did a food program. We did cultural education, and that's impromptu. So I do see a great potential for building right here in Fargo.
Megan?
I think one of the biggest things that we can support in North Dakota in terms of affordable housing is the Housing Incentive Fund. It's currently not funded by the legislature, and I think it's crucial that we fund that. I also think that we need to work on those partnerships. It's important for us to work with tribes and make sure that those issues are focused on, and we can bring all stakeholders to the table to find those common sense solutions.
Megan, we start with you. What should be the top budget priorities for North Dakota in the next biennium?
Public education. We have a teacher shortage and retention problem in this state. We need to make sure that our public schools are getting adequate funding and our teachers are adequately paid. The childcare crisis, we need to invest state dollars into making sure that working families can go back to work, but also send their child to daycare where it's accessible and affordable. We also need to work on lowering those property taxes for folks, especially those on fixed incomes and those skyrocketing property taxes.
Lillian?
Top budget priority, for one, childcare, making sure that we can get people working and have folks available to care for the kids. Bolstering education without a sound, fortified at this point education. Our children and grandchildren don't stand much of a future. And climate change, we have to invest and we have to act now while we have the chance to do so.
And starting with you, Lillian, what infrastructure improvements should be priorities for the North Dakota legislature that will impact your district's constituents?
Top of the list once again is childcare. If we can, it doesn't look like, it doesn't sound like an infrastructure thing, but if people can't get to work, you can't get to work. But so right off the bat, it would be childcare funding.
Megan?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What infrastructure improvements should be priorities for the North Dakota legislature that will impact your district's constituents?
Childcare impacts infrastructure. We need to make sure that our workforce shortage is addressed. We need to make sure that our childcare workers are paid a living wage. When families are able to send their kids back to daycare and go to work, we address that workforce shortage. We also then support our businesses thriving because they have enough adequate staff.
I have got one more question, unless somebody brings one up while these are being answered. So this will be our last question unless somebody brings me another one, and then we'll go to closing statements. And this was actually the 16th question we've gotten to tonight. Y'all talk fast. I'm from Missouri. Y'all talk too fast. What do you think is the most neglected issue facing North Dakotans? What would you do to solve this issue?
I sound like a broken record. Public education. We need to fund our public schools. Public schools lead to vibrant communities. Our teachers are educating our future generations. We need to make sure that our public schools are funded and not giving tax dollars for private school vouchers. And it's important that the legislature focuses on this so that we can have a community that is continuing to thrive.
Lillian?
Education, public education. We need to bolster and increase and enhance our public education, especially when it comes to STEM fields and STEM careers, because that's where we are and that's where the future is.
So this concludes the question and answer portion. I want to thank all the candidates and the audience, both here in person and those of you watching at home, and informing yourselves before you vote. And if you'd like to continue learning more about your candidates, the League has partnered with Forum Communications to present vote411.org. Through this website, you can is a voter's guide that will let you just simply enter in your address, and will give you the list of candidates who will be on your ballot, the two explanations of the two initiated measures in North Dakota, and for all the candidates who have answered the questions submitted for them through Vote 411, you can also get additional information about your candidates. So please take a look at that either through the forum or the League Facebook page, or simply go to vote411.org. And so we will have our closing remarks, and I'm going to turn the timer off for this and let you all just talk as long as you want, because we're kind of finishing a little early. We'll start, Megan, you started with the opening statements, so we'll let Lillian get the last word in. So we'll start with you tonight on the closing statement.
All right.
Megan, we'll start with you, so Lillian gets the last word.
So here's what's on the ballot this November. We've got reproductive freedom, funding for public education, lowering our property taxes, making sure we address this childcare shortage in our state and our crisis that's going on. We have $8 billion sitting in Bismarck. Some people call it the Legacy Fund, others call it the Rainy Day Fund, and I'll tell you what, it's raining. We need to invest these dollars into our state so that we can continue to be a leader, and it's time we elect politicians to Bismarck that are going to stand up for reproductive freedom, support public education, make sure we lower property taxes, and I am that candidate that believes all of those things, and I will always fight for working families in North Dakota, and I hope to get your vote on November 8th. Thanks for having us.
Lillian.
I'm thankful for this opportunity to speak to you tonight and to answer the questions that were posed. Thank you for the time that you took in crafting those, and I appreciate your participation here. I really look forward to getting to Bismarck. I was born and raised there, and I always said that I could go back to Bismarck temporarily in elected office, and here's an opportunity to get back home. I sure would appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting to work, though, and in addition to property tax relief, again, there's got to be a parallel. I believe in equity, I believe in justice, and I believe that we can easily do a renter's rebate. I believe that we need to bolster education, and that legacy fund needs to earn its name. I think it's about time that it proves its weight. And another thing that we hadn't been able to contact or to touch on this evening is access to affordable health care. That has to be a priority, and it has to be something that we can make sure that our gig workers and independent contractors and entrepreneurs also have an ability to get their businesses covered and their employees. I look forward to working on behalf of everyone in District 41. Party doesn't matter. We're all the same in the end. I appreciate your time, and I would certainly appreciate your vote. Go ahead and look me up on Facebook, Lillian4MD. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the candidates for being candidates and participating in our democracy in that way. And thank you to all of you who are here and being participants as well, and now go out and be the best kind of participants, which are voters. We will take a break here and get set up for our next forum for District 44. Thank you.